Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Forever Altered. My name is Tammy, and I created this channel to provide resources for people who are in narcissistic relationships. I have been in a relationship with a narcissist for almost 5 years, and when I first realized what was going on after much research, I found a lot of really good information about recovery and what to do once you get out. But I didn't find a lot that spoke to those people who were still stuck for whatever reason, period. I see a lot of people, and the consensus is just leave, just get out. And it's complicated. It's very complicated and for various reasons. And so I've done a lot of research, and I spend my time researching what we do while we're here and what we can do while we're here to prepare for leaving, or even merely just to survive. One of the biggest things I noticed, and that's what I want to talk about today, is economically speaking, there are two broad categories of narcissist victims. We're both financially yoked to the narcissist, but for very different reasons and in very different ways. The first category is where the victim is the financial support in the situation, in which case, for the relationship to end, the narc has to leave. The narc is living in the victim's home. The narc is sucking the victim's financial resources, among other things, but I'm speaking financially at this point. The second is where the narc is the financial support, and in that situation, the victim must leave. Those are two very different avenues. The recourse, the course of action in those two scenarios, in those two broad categories, are extremely different, in my opinion. I'm going to speak about myself a little bit, and then I want to go into one of those categories. I am in a situation where I'm the financial support. This is a very common situation because a lot of narcissists, of course, they're looking for their fuel. They're looking for their, resources that they can extract from someone. And, financial resources are obviously important. So in my situation, my narc is living in my home, and we share a daughter together. And of course, children complicate the situation very much. The level to which you'll put up with over the fear of losing your child to the narc and having to leave them behind for legal reasons, whatever, if the court were to find for the other parent, etc. Staying for that reason is probably the number one reason. Financial reasons and children, I think, are the two main reasons. So the second broad category is where the narc is the financial support. And in this case, the victim has to leave. And this is what I want to talk about today. I'm not in this particular situation, which makes me feel like I have good information to provide you with, and maybe some things to think about. And I'm just going to talk really frankly to you and to your sensibilities. So think about what I'm saying. If this is your situation, if you're the one who is stuck because of finances and you can't get out, here are some things that you can start to work towards, and that will put you in a better position, because this is your first goal. Your first goal for escaping your situation is to achieve some level of financial security and independence. If you don't, you're not going to ever leave. And keep in mind that most likely your narc is doing everything in their power to keep you from achieving that goal. And I'm sure every situation is going to be different. Some people in this situation are, down to where they aren't given anything. They're not given a cell phone. They're not given any money. They are literally held hostage in the situation. And others are in a little bit more equitable situations, but they are the ones that they don't get all of the info. They're kept out of the loop. So you need to make an assessment of your particular situation before you can get a really good game plan. But here are just some basic things that you need to think about to achieve economic self-sufficiency. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence reported that 1 in 4 women experiences partner violence, and that economic non-self-sufficiency, if I'm saying that right, is the number one reason why they stay. So with that being said, here are, I think it's 10 things I wrote down that you can start to work on to achieve some level of financial security and in order to leave. So this game plan is specifically to leave. Number 1 is get a picture of where you stand money-wise. What do you own? What do you owe? Are you on the titles to vehicles? Are you on the titles to the house if you have a mortgage? Whose name are all your assets in, your joint assets? Checking account, savings account, whose name are they in? Credit cards. Are you on there? Is your name on there? And if so, do you have a card? Where's your card? And what are the balances? If you have a credit card, what's the balance owed, and what's the total balance that you're allowed to charge? So start gathering all of the information that you can to paint the picture of your finances. Don't assume that just because you are not in the loop or just because he's withholding that from you, that your name isn't being used on that information. Okay? And if it is, that gives you some rights, but it also gives you major responsibility. But you need to know that. You need to know it ahead of time. Be very careful while you're doing this, because if they have purposefully kept you out of the loop, you're going to alert them to something if they see you. So if you do this carefully. Make copies of whatever you can, or take older statements if you need to get numbers that may not be noticed, and if he saves them, go through the trash if you have to. Keep that information, keep it all together, but do not keep it in your house. Keep it outside of your house. Keep it with a friend, preferably, or a family member. Because if he or she runs across a file that has all of this information in it, they're going to know something's up. So if you have to, go to the bank. Go to the bank yourself and ask for a statement. Ask for a balance. Ask for that information. But if you're on there, you're entitled to it. So you don't need his permission to get that information. So second, gather important documents. It's kind of a no-brainer, but birth certificates, social security cards, a copy of your marriage certificate, bank statements, credit card statements, we already talked about that, proof of ownership of assets. If your house is paid for and you're married, and even if it's not paid for, but you need to, if you can get a copy of the deed, and you can do that at the courthouse. You don't have to do that. You don't have to look through your personal records if you can't, if you're not allowed to, if that's going to alert your narc to something. But get copies of all of that, and also password information, any password information to, for instance, your online banking. Are you allowed to get on the online banking and look at the balance? If there is one, get the password, and so that you have access as well to look at that information. Make sure if you're using a computer that you're using a private browser, or delete your browsing history just in case. So you're not leaving a trail, especially depending on how controlling your narc is. If he's going to be looking for that kind of stuff, then you need to be extra vigilant to hide your trail. You need to check your credit. You need to bite the bullet, get on Credit Karma or whatever, and check your credit and see what's on there. See what your name's being used on. See what your credit rating is. That's going to tell you, even if it's bad, you need to know whether it's good or bad. If you have a narc that is financially controlling and is very flamboyant about his lifestyle or whatever, it might be something that's very important to them, and you might be sitting there with a really good credit score and not even realize it. But again, if you're getting late notices or things of that nature, and you need to be paying attention to the mail because your name is being used probably on those accounts as well. But if you're getting that kind of stuff, then you need to know. You need to know what the situation is, and they're not going to tell you. They're not going to share that with you. Number 4 is have a plan to change all your passwords before you go. Like one of the tail end things that you would do would be to go in and change all your passwords, either before you go or the day you go from an outside location. Get out of there and then change them. But it just depends on your situation. If you're going to have immediate use of a computer and internet where you can do that, then you could do it afterwards. But if not, then you need to definitely change passwords on anything that's yours specifically. If your narc has come into your life and is controlling you financially and controlling your money financially, then this applies to you. It's very important that you go in and change the passwords so they can't do any further damage. Now, that would also mean passwords on anything, credit cards, Amazon accounts, eBay accounts, any type of accounts that they can utilize to charge things to further rack up a financial burden. Change the password so they can't access it any longer. Make sure that the email that's associated with those passwords is also changed if they are able to get to the email, because they could, say lost password and change it back. So you need to make sure that you, do everything you can to keep them from trying to re-access it. Number 5 is, if you don't already have your own personal checking account, get one set up. Get something set up for yourself where a personal checking account is imperative. If you can't qualify for a checking account, there are credit cards that you can use, or they're actually a prepaid debit card that you can use in like a checking account, but you can have money direct deposited to it, and that's the key, to be able to have your money put in there and then use it. I think Walmart has one called Bluebird, I believe. But anyway, there are a few. They do have fees associated with them, so they're not free to use, but they're an option if you can't get your own checking account, and if you can't qualify for a debit card, for instance. So that is an option. Do not have the statements to this account sent to your address. Have them sent somewhere else. Have them sent to a friend or family member. You don't want there to be any evidence that this account exists. Number 6, save whatever money you can, but keep it away from your house. Don't be walking around with it in your purse. Save whatever money you can, and that is going to be a different situation for every person. If you're stuck, if he's giving you an allowance and he's allowing you, for instance, to buy cigarettes, let's just use a really simple example. Maybe you need to stop smoking and start saving that $5 and put it in an account and hide it. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And I used to smoke, so I know what I'm saying when I say that. But you need the resources. You need that $5 way more than you need this cigarette. I don't care how stressed you are. You can say I'm stressed, but you will never get not stressed if you don't get out of the situation. And when you smoke, it doesn't make you may calm down for the moment, but your stress doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. And you know that. And again, I say I'm an ex-smoker. I smoked for 18 years, so I'm not trying to hit on you or hammer on you for that, but I'm giving you a thought. It's important to have some kind of cash. You've got to have some kind of cash when you leave. So you got to figure out ways to do it, and that's just one way. I have seen many people who were very, very financially broke that did smoke or did maybe spend some of that money without thinking about it in a way that might not have been in their best interest at that point in time. Okay, enough said on that one. Number 7, change your direct deposit if you do have a job. If you have a job, if they've allowed you to work, and you get a paycheck and you have it direct deposited to their account, or you have a paper check or whatever, get it set up to direct deposit to your new account. Like, have it to start when you leave. Go in there, get the paperwork filled out to have it direct deposited to your new secret individual account, and have it start on whatever day, and make that be the day. Make that be the day that you are out of here. Number 8, if you can, and this is one of those last resort options, but if you can, get a credit card in your name if possible, so that you have some type of emergency. It may not be money you've saved, but it is an emergency access to cash to fall back on if everything else fails. So if you do go and get a Credit Karma account, which is free, to look at your credit, they will give you periodically, they will show you options of credit cards that they think you could qualify for, or loans, just based on your credit and what they see. They give you options. You could start there. Maybe you have bad credit where you can't get any credit card, but they'll offer you a secured card where you pay $200 and they give you a $400 limit or something of that nature. The interest might be high, but if you're up against the wall and you're trying to escape, that may be a trade-off. So if you have it, it's there for you. If you have credit cards that are in both your names, this is number 9. I would try to call the company and tell them you want your name removed from the card, and say, I realize I'm responsible for the charges still that are made up to this point, but I don't want to be responsible for the charges that are made beyond today. And get your name taken off of those cards so that potentially he or she could go charge a whole bunch of stuff, and then you would have to pay for it too, even if you weren't there and you weren't part of the decision and didn't benefit from the stuff, whatever, but your name's on it, and that's all that matters. So, and then the last thing, that now that you have a clear picture of your finances and you know what money is or is not there, if you have cash balances, if you're lucky enough to have cash balances that you've now discovered, and especially if you're married, but if you are, living together in a situation where you've purchased assets together and so forth, I believe I would still do this. You're getting ready to leave. You're ready to go out the door. So you need to find out what the balances are in your checking and savings accounts as of that day. Anything that you can get your hands on, and take 50% of it. 50% of it is your half. Some states, community property states, that's how they divide it. Other states, they try to divide it on some equitable basis, but it's pretty close to what you would get. I was reading about this, and they recommended that you take 50%, take a picture of a screenshot of the total balance before you take the 50%, and the total balance immediately after you take the 50%. Something to indicate that this was the balance and this was my half, and now this is the balance. And keep that as proof that you just took your share. You took your share when you left, and, whatever. So you can prove that if you need to. In closing, I want to say that the National Coalition for Domestic Violence, you should be able to do a search on that, and they're in every state, and they can help you. They can help you with jobs, housing, counseling, which is very necessary in a situation like this, and childcare while you're working or while you're looking for a job, or while you're possibly while you're getting some education to get a better job or to get a job. I worked in mental health for 9 years, and I worked with a lot of people with different illnesses and so forth. And I did work with a lady that was in an abusive situation, and she went to a homeless shelter to get out of it. She had 3 children, and I had to continue to see her while she was in the homeless shelter, and so I got the privilege of going there on a regular basis. And I was amazed. If you're afraid of that as an option, go and check it out before you rule it out, because the place she went was, first of all, it was beautiful. Secondly, it was extremely safe. I mean, when an outside person came there, the victims that were staying there were not allowed to answer the door ever, for safety reasons. It was in an undisclosed location. It was like secret whatever to get to it. It's not easily found as far as that goes. And then the staff, it's fully staffed 24 hours a day. The people got their own rooms. Each family had their own bedroom type unit that had enough beds in it for the parent and the children. And then there were shared spaces, and it was a big kitchen, and there was counselors there. There were counselors there. They just took these girls in and wrapped their arms around them. And this girl that I worked with, she was able to stay there for a year. She stayed there for a year. They even helped find a place for her dog. They helped her get her kids in school. They provided daycare there while she looked for jobs and helped her find a job. They even helped her get into an apartment that was some type of a federally funded apartment. And they helped her pull her life out of the gutter, and in the most despairing situation. And while she was there, she was fed, she was clothed, she was happy. Her kids had other kids to play with. She had other moms to compare stories and feel support with. She had the caseworkers that made her make plans for her future and helped her to check those off and achieve them. And you can't even imagine getting out from under the stress that you are under and into a positive environment, and how much you can accomplish with help instead of hindrance. And so I'm not saying they're all that wonderful. Maybe they're not, but you won't know that unless you go look. So it's far more than just a roof over your head. It's the support you need to get your head out of your ass and get your life on track. You've been beat down. You've been, obviously, I'm sure, if you've gone through what I've gone through, you've been called every name under the sun. You've been made to doubt your own abilities, your own self. And, we're all different. We all come from different genetic makeup. Some people are stronger fighters than others. Some people, narcs know what to look for, and they know how to target your weak points. And some people are better at rising above it than others. And it's difficult no matter what. You come to a point where, you know, you're trying to fix this person, you're trying to fix you because you think maybe it is me. You know, all these thoughts you go through, and then you come to the other side. And some people are just stronger swimmers, I guess. But you need to surround yourself with all the resources that you can, all the positive resources that you can, especially those that would understand narcissistic abuse, because if they don't, they're just going to look at you like, well, you must like it because you stay. You're still there. I'd leave if I were you. You know, like, I can't believe you put up with that. All these things, and it's like, don't ever expect someone who has not lived it to understand it, because they can't. There's no way. So, and I know, I gotta say this. Sylvia, I am praying for you. I am so praying for you. I appreciate each and every one of you and your personal stories, and I sympathize and empathize with you. And I know what it's like to feel like you're at rock bottom. But you know what? When you're at rock bottom, one place to look is up. So keep that in mind. Please subscribe to my channel. Please share your comments below, your positive comments below. Negative comments will be deleted because we are here trying to build each other up. We have no time for that. So if you want to say something positive or something that's going to help someone else, I'm all for it. Have a great day, and love you all. Thanks.